This is E&P Reports from Editor and Publisher Magazine, the authoritative voice of news media since 1884, serving newspapers, broadcasts, digital, and all multimedia news publishing. And greetings once again. I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine. As always, if you are listening to this program on your favorite podcast platform, by all means, we urge you to follow us. Watching on YouTube, hit the bell below me and the subscribe button, and you'll get an update each and every time we upload a new episode of E&P Reports. Today, I'm going to take you to this large Kansas City for a story. Now, the city is Manhattan, Kansas, which on net is spelled the same as the big Manhattan, correct? I assume. No
that
change?
is correct. It was some form of tribute in 1855. Yes.
Okay, Manhattan, Kansas. But to tell people where it is, I'm going to try to do this correctly. It is in the county of Potawatomi? No. Would you tell me? How did I say that? What is the county, Ned?
Well, Manhattan is partly in Potawatomi County.
Okay, Potawatomi. Go ahead.
It's actually mostly in Riley County, but the story we're going to get into today is in Potawatomi County.
This is actually a town that is in two counties in Kansas. Then both of
Yes.
them. Okay, cool. And it's north of a city called Wamego. Did I have that one right or wrong?
No, you got that one wrong too. It's Wamego with a W.
Sorry.
And then the town north of Wamego is called Westmoreland, and
That's where you guys are.
well, I'm in Manhattan, but the story we're going to go through is in Westmoreland.
All of this, if anyone really is, it's actually, correct me if I'm wrong, just about 1 hour northwest of Topeka. Do I have that about right? We're kind of outside of Topeka. And Topeka is where we find Emily Bradbury, I assume. Is that where you are, Emily?
Yes, that's where we are based, is out of Topeka, the state capital. Yep.
Of course. Emily's executive director of Kansas Press Association. Ned, you're kind of a hero. That's why we're bringing this up today. You stood in front of a city council and you somehow got things changed back to the way they should be. And that got a lot of national attention, which woke us up here at E&P. So with your kind permission, Ned, on the backside of this commercial, we're going to have a chat about August 11th, 2022, and when you appeared in front of the city council in Westmoreland, Kansas, and helped bring back public notices. Is that okay with you, sir?
Looking forward to it.
Here we go.
This episode of E&P Reports is sponsored by IQ Audience Plus by Town News. Consumer revenue has never been more important. Digital leaders at media organizations worldwide are asking the same question. How do we accelerate the growth of consumer revenue? Traditional one-size-fits-all paywalls aren't the answer. They're blunt instruments that treat all visitors the same way, costing you money. IQ Audience Plus by Town News is a smart, dynamic metering solution that empowers you to maximize revenue by identifying key audiences, seeding engagement, and growing membership and subscriptions. Ready to supercharge your consumer revenue, grow engagement, and bolster your advertising income? Visit townnews.com/EP today to learn more about IQ Audience Plus by Town News.
Okay, Ned, the date was August 11th, 2022. And that's the date we're going to work backwards from. That's when you gave an amazing presentation. I've actually read it word for word. We're going to place it on the page so people can see it. If anyone's listening to this on Spotify or Apple, please go back to editorandpublisher.com/vodcast. You're really going to want to see this presentation that Ned did, but let's now use that as our date and go backwards from there. When did you, Ned, decide? Who told you? When did you feel need to get in front of this city of Westmoreland and tell them to turn on public notices again? What motivated you to do this?
Well, we had a reporter at a city council meeting in Westmoreland a couple weeks prior to that. It may have been a month prior to that, where the city council had taken a vote to get out of placing public notices in a printed newspaper. And the editor of the paper covering that event, which is one of our papers, alerted me and said, "Hey, you might want to know about this." So I said, "Yeah, I do." And she gave me the contact information for the mayor, who I called.
Now,
immediately, and he was gracious enough to say, "Well, I'll put you on the agenda, and you have your say." So I did.
now, to anyone who did not read the page that this video and audio is embedded on, Ned, we should talk about your company. It's called Seton Publications, correct? Home office in Manhattan, correct?
Yes, yeah, we have a family business. It's kind of a herd of cats. The papers are all owned by separate companies in a few Midwestern states: Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, Wyoming, South Dakota. It goes back. I'm the fourth generation in our family to be involved. Started with my great grandfather buying the Manhattan Mercury in 1915. And we forgot to get out of this line of work a couple generations ago.
Don't hold back, Ned. How do you really feel? No.
Yeah, right. Well, no, I love it. My dad and I, at least, and certainly my brother, we're all news people. Same with my cousins, and so we've come up on the news side, and the family shareholders who we have in common are all very patient, good-hearted people, and so we've been able to get through hard times, and of course we had lots of good times too. So we're real fortunate to be able to do what we do.
I should mention, full disclosure, your son, Jake Seton, people are trying to put, has become famous in our industry. He's at all the conferences, and he incubated, believe it or not, because he was on this very program months ago, and he told us the story, a company called Column incubated in Kansas, correct? Because he was working in your operation and saw how screwy public notices were, not screwy, but it just didn't seem organized. It was becoming antiquated in how the technology was being done. It was always requiring a phone call to be made when lawmakers and lawyers and people wanting divorces all just wanted to get that information out there. Why not a simple, easy system to publish them? And now I'm going to bring Emily. And Emily, were you one of the first states to bring Column in? Does it all came out of Kansas? Because now there are a long list of states that now do their public notices through Column. Am I correct, Emily?
Yeah, absolutely. We were lucky enough to be on the list of Jake's contacts when he first started it. And so it's been a sight to behold to watch this company go from, a small one-person operation to now a worldwide company. So yeah, we've been in it from the ground floor. And so we didn't do any of the hard work. Jake and his team did all the hard work, but it's been amazing to watch that evolution.
Ned, you must be proud. When I asked Jake if he wanted to join this conversation, he sent me back a quick email saying, "No, this is Dad's win. I'll let him have the stage." So there you go. But you got to be proud of how all this has been growing. But again, public notices are kind of the story here back in Kansas. So yeah. Before we get into what happened, so now we got this town, Westmoreland. Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, but Kansas is one of those screwy states where they have laws on the books that if a town wants to stop doing public notices, it can get around it. Is that what's going on in Kansas?
Yeah, so the Kansas Constitution has a thing called home rule. And what it says is if there is a law that is not uniform across all classes of cities. So in Kansas, we have 3 classes of cities: first class, second class, and third class. And the public notice law, unfortunately, is not uniform across all classes of cities. So that allows cities, if they want to quote unquote home rule and say, we're going to make our website, the official publication. Now, school districts cannot do that, and counties cannot do that because that law is completely uniform, and we don't have different classes of districts, school districts, and counties and things. So all that is uniform, but it is not uniform across the city. So that's what allows a community to be able to say, we're going to home rule. Now, there are things that we've come up with that can fight that. There's a petition process that forces it to go to a vote. However, when Ned called me, he said, I'm going to try to go to the city council first and let's see what happens. So this is a definite win for Ned. And it says a lot about his publication and his relationship with the people that he serves, because of that relationship and that reciprocal respect between the communities that he serves and his publication, I think contributed a lot to this win.
I want to get to that a little bit later on, because I do want to talk to you as a state association executive director on the need to have publishers that help support your cause. But before we get to that, since I know the state association managers have a very tight organization, and NAM is back, and God bless NAM, especially with National Newspaper Week, that saluting our incredible industry. You guys talk amongst each other and share a lot, the NAM Newspaper Association managers. My question to you is Kansas one of the screwy states that only has this, or could other states have towns, to your knowledge, that also have these kinds of laws where a town could simply say, "They hell with the paper. We're going to just do this on our own. We're no longer going to post our public notices"?
That's a really good question. I don't know the specifics if other states have this mechanism built into their state constitution. I'm not sure about that, but I do know we're all different when it comes to what publications have to be published. I mean, you have some states to where even budgets have to be published, the entire budget. There's certain things that have to be published in other states that aren't here, and vice versa. But Kansas is an outlier when it comes to, we have no set rate for public notices. There's no set font size. There's no set. So there are some parameters about what rates can be, but there are some states that have, it's very tight, the parameters around public notices. Kansas is not one of those.
So Ned, you reached out to Emily and said, my reporter just tipped me off in this town called Westmoreland, which is a town you cover with one of your publications. And you said, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to tell a story. I like the story you told, Ned, because you took it back to the real base. Many people think the only reason this industry is trying to defend and protect public notices is greed. It's money, and we deserve that money. And damn it, we've had it for years. And don't tell me about this technology stuff. You mentioned that a little bit in your speech when you said you're also supporting the damn newspaper that covers the work you do. God forbid we become a news desert someday. I mean, that's important. But you also talked about the real benefit of why and I want you to kind of say that out into this audience right now. It's actually part in how you framed it as part of our Madisonian democracy, right? A check on power, in a way that there should be a final way that what the government does has to be printed. Do I have that right, or am I paraphrasing it wrong, Ned?
No, you're right on the mark. I tried to appeal to the city council members there that surely they agreed with the concept that the government ought to make known to the public what they're doing, and that if they, if politicians that they didn't agree with happened to be in power, that surely they would agree with the concept that what they're doing ought to be subject to full disclosure. The public needs to know what the government is doing, or else the system that we've got falls apart. And so that's the principle behind public notices. The reason they're in printed newspapers is because there needs to be a verifiable, tangible record of the fact that they've been published. The notion of allowing the government to put those notices on the government's own website is, to use a phrase that my son Jake would probably throw up in his mouth a little bit to hear me use, it's the fox guarding the hen house.
Precisely.
Yeah, he gets tired of hearing that analogy, but it's a pretty good one. There are a lot of cases of things that get uncovered because of public notices. Even in our coverage area, we had a fun little case that I could get into if you want. But the point is, that was the case I made to the Westmoreland City Council members, and they were their motivation in getting out of publishing public notices was to save money,
right?
Which is, of course, entirely understandable. When I looked into it, I believe the amount they had spent on public notices in our paper amounted to about 0.4% of the city budget.
It was like 3 stop signs you said, or something?
Yeah, I mean, I was guessing, I don't know, but that it's a rounding error. It's not a significant amount of money compared to the city's operation. And I don't think Westmoreland is unusual in that regard. It's not much money, and to stand on the principle, I think, is far more important. And what was remarkable was that the city council members agreed. They just flat out agreed.
Isn't that
And
funny? I find that fascinating that as much as we believe in our industry that we're perceived as an enemy to the political class, if I could use that term. I hate that class, but that's the politicians that we, based on the Constitution, are supposed to keep that final check on power on. When it comes to things like the JCPA in Congress, back me up. Am I right, Emily? I mean, there is bipartisan support straight down the aisle. Deep in the soul, I think, of our government officials, they know the need for a free, unfettered press. Do you agree, Emily?
Oh, absolutely. I see that all the time, even here in Kansas. I mean, there's a healthy tension that happens. I mean, they will at one second, not like our coverage and let me know about it. But at the same time, they say, do you need something from me? How's the industry doing here in Kansas? What can we do to help? I mean, it is a healthy tension. And I think they even understand that. And it's amazing who our partners are on some transparency issues here in Kansas. I mean, it's that healthy distrust of government that sometimes finds us on the same side of the politicians.
I agree. Well, go ahead, Ned. I'm sorry.
If I can throw in, I mean, Kansas is a moderate Republican state, generally speaking.
You think?
Sometimes not so moderate, but I tried to put it in the speech that you referred to. I tried to use examples from both sides of the aisle. The thing is that if you're a hardcore conservative Republican, you may not trust very much what's happening in the Biden White House or in a legislature controlled by the Democrats. Whereas if you're a Democrat, you don't trust the Trump White House very much, and et cetera, et cetera. The point is, regardless of which side of the political divide you're on, you are suspicious of power in the hands of the other side. And so the concept of public notice fits in very much with the concept of checks and balances. And that is, I think that rang true in this particular case. And I don't mean to preempt anything. What was noteworthy about it is that in this case, they had the legal right, because of this oddball loophole that Emily has described, to not publish public notices in a newspaper anymore, and yet they chose to do so.
They did. And I want to just say as a sidebar, if I may here, that there must be something in the Seton DNA, because if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple, and I want you to go back to editorandpublisher.com/vodcast, because I'm going to have on the page the actual speech that your son gave here in Florida. I am Tampa Bay based, in front of the Florida legislature, where our governor, according to rumor, although we dug into that in the story, pulled public notices just because he was mad at a reporter. I mean, it looks like it all boiled down to that. And your son did a phenomenal job standing up for the right of information and truth. However, his result wasn't as positive as yours, because thanks to your speech in front of the Westmoreland City Council, as we just said, it was reversed. The business was back. You were going to say something, Ned?
Well, Jake's a far better public speaker than I am, and I'm real proud of him. And he's standing up for the right thing. I mean, he built that company. He started in the back of our building.
I know.
Which was fun. It was fun to have him around for the summer. I guess the point is, he's standing up for the right thing. He does a hell of a lot better job speaking publicly about it. I just happen to hit the right audience at the right time.
Well, we appreciate your modesty. Now, I wanted to get into it because Emily touched on this, and there's a second reason why I want to do this interview. Now that we've gotten the story out, that one publisher, owner, company, had the wherewithal to get in front of city council, and you coordinated with Emily before this, I'm assuming, right? You guys chatted. Emily, you knew he was going up there to make this speech. Emily, when we were discussing the fiasco here in Florida, if I may put it that way, again, I'm getting a little biased, but you know the story, right? And we had Jim Fogler on the program and his counsel, and we had one of the things we tried to dive into, and I want to get your perspective on this, is there's not a lot of, I hope I'm saying this right, there's not a lot of Neds left in our industry. If you follow my logic, maybe Kansas isn't getting, how should I say, purged by hedge funds, where they come in, gobble up papers, destroy the hierarchy that we used to have. When I say hierarchy, I mean, I believe a publisher should be in the shop, someone who is not just in charge of editorial and sales, but someone who's also that having coffee with the local city council, is representing the paper to the community. Do you agree? Has your job become a little harder if there wasn't a Ned that was willing to stand up in front of that microphone and do that necessary lobbying? You can't do this on your own. Am I right, Emily?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, these relationships are key. I'm one person. I can't be everywhere. We have 105 counties and almost 200 publications across the state. I mean, having that local person in the community is key. And you're right, in the areas where in other states and even in our state at one time, we had a real problem with not having someone there in the community that was a touchstone. It's really hard for me to defend public notice when I get complaints from the key stakeholders saying I can't place a public notice because no one's answering the phone. Or, and those are the kinds of things that make us press associations our life harder. But I think that no matter what the title of that person is in the community, whether it's a publisher or a managing editor or the community reporter, having that person in that community that has the relationships with the city. And it doesn't have to be a chummy one. It just has to be a mutual respect, right? It has to be that person, because me going up as a statewide organization and preaching about the importance of public notice doesn't mean anything when the publisher of the local paper's up there saying, here's why we have to have public notice in this community. And here's why. And Ned is absolutely right. When you look at the numbers, we have done research on this. And when they come at us with, it's so much money, 0.01% sometimes of a city's budget is on public notices. Usually when you dig really deep, it is they're mad at some editorial that they wrote. They're mad because they can't get a hold of anybody, or they're mad about this. So it's not often a cost issue. It's more often some other things that are going on. I can help, talk and advise on a cost issue, but I can't fix that relationship that maybe has soured. So it is truly key for us to have these local people in the communities forming and keeping those relationships to be able to keep public notice.
And we have to understand as an industry that any owner that says, oh, I'll let the editor-in-chief do it, you can't have the editor-in-chief in a free, unfettered press environment be the one that's sitting down and having coffee with the city council meeting. I mean, that's the person that's supposed to be in charge of the voice for the, I mean, I could go on and on about how this system was put into place. So Ned, first of all, we're blowing you some smoke. Kudos, congratulations, because you did your job. Now I'm going to ask you, now that I have both of you on this, because I wanted to do this on a third level. Now, here comes the gotcha questions, because we've told this great story, but I now do have Kansas on this platform, and Kansas, as you were, it leans right. There's no question. You're a Republican. I want to just say there's more of a mainstream Republican approach there. We are reporting at E&P how cable news of all sorts, all shapes and sizes and flavors, has lost public trust over the years. And our cover story this month talks about how that is channeling down to the local level now, where it's hard. People now perceive all press to be biased. And Nate, I want to talk about these, because you truly are the community. I mean, you're talking these small towns in Kansas. You're representing these communities. Are you having challenges defending, how should I say, your viability, your purpose?
Yes.
Okay.
All the above. If you're talking about politics, yes, we have an opinion page that we run in our main publication every day. I write an opinion column. 6 days a week? So no, 5. Sorry, can't claim more than I actually do. And people send in a letter canceling their subscription because they disagree with something I wrote. It started in the Rush Limbaugh era, where I started to see letters that would come in that used the same language Rush was using, the drive-by media, the
elite media, the
MSM, so forth. And it was I mean, Rush, he's a hell of an entertainer, was a hell of an entertainer. He's very good at his job. I enjoyed listening to him. I occasionally agreed with him. Um, but yes, we run into the problem of people have their minds made up and they go around searching for bits of information that confirm their previously held beliefs.
Precisely what we're reporting on.
Right.
And when you have I looked at your publications. I mean, and you should be proud. You clearly separate news from opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, you do. Isn't that your job? You said, here's news, source journalistic news, and here's opinion, which we all know the cable sphere doesn't do anymore. It all gets kind of botched together and kind of some kind of what they call a echo chamber soup, if you know what I mean. And people have trouble where one of the defenses, well, they're just evening entertainers. They're not really news people. I mean, that's not the case. You would never run your shop that way. So now you're verifying to me, it's not just the left. This is what just from your one source, because, the left can sometimes feel as if, these reporters are having their lives, threatened if they show up at a rally but the point is, it's not just left environments. It's anywhere now. Local journalism is losing its shine. Can I use that term? Or at least its place, or how, because of this world of bias that's going on. Correct?
Yeah, I think that our business fundamentally over the long haul is a subscription business, and so the only way we're going to make it is if we serve our readers with the type of information that they want and need. Opinion is a tiny sidelight, but there is a perception that a news story is either a red story or a blue story, and that that's hard to fight against. So the only way to do it is in my opinion, is just to keep doing a really good job of providing the information that people want and need.
Well, let me bring in Emily on this, because I think that's the first thing we must do is keep our head in the game. You agree, Emily, and do our job. I remember when I interviewed on this platform the Minneapolis Star-Tribune team that won the Pulitzer for their coverage of the George Floyd thing, and I said, "How did you guys keep your head in the game during a pandemic and all that cable news stuff going on?" And their editorial team said, "What's cable news? We don't listen to it. We don't watch it." So you keep your head in the game. But the second thing, Emily, correct me, am I wrong, is the mission that you guys at NAM are trying to do, which is help us market ourselves, which we really suck at. We're not good at telling our audiences who we are. Do you agree? We got fat and lazy for a century because everybody got us and everybody read us, and we forgot that we had to tell people our value. That's got to be a challenge for you guys, right?
Yeah, it is. And that's some of the things I love most about our industry is we have some humble people that are doing the work every single day, which is, I'm so proud to represent them, but at the same time, try to tell them to tell their stories, because they do such a wonderful job telling everyone else's story. And I think it is so important to get stories like Ned out there. And like you said, he has stories about what public notice, what things have been, corruption has been uncovered by a public notice. We have a paper in Southeast Kansas that just because they were looking through some public notices, their bookkeeper noticed that there was a rounding error and that couldn't be right. Anyway, long story short, the county clerk over the last 20 years stole almost $800,000 from this little city in Southeast Kansas. And it was uncovered because of a public notice. And the paper was really digging into it and looking at it. So, I mean, there are stories like that everywhere. And you're right. I think keeping your head in the game, and it is a tough industry, and the people doing the work are quality people, and just to keep doing quality journalism, because we did a readership study here in Kansas, and I would say kind of that cable news, echoing that, our papers are the ones that are in their community every single day. The kind of, sometimes that media comes in when there's been a tornado somewhere, but the people that they see every day are people like Ned. And 85% of Kansans read a newspaper, whether print or digital. And that was in the middle of the pandemic, because our communities, the pandemic hit Kansas just like it hit every other state. The eastern half of the state was hit a lot harder earlier, and it didn't trickle west till a lot later. And so we had our communities that were able to talk to their community about how it was impacting them. And in that moment, no one else was doing that. And I think that really helped our communities identify they're not part of the mainstream media. And you hear people all the time when I'm in communities saying, oh, the mainstream media, and kind of doing that kind of trope. But when I ask about their paper, local paper, oh no, that's not the
There you
media.
go.
Yeah.
That's not the media. That's my paper. That's not what I'm talking about. So it's very interesting when you dig deep with the people who are kind of railing against mainstream media, when you ask them about the people like Ned that they see at church on Sunday, or that they see at their kids' baseball games and reporting on those games. No, they're not talking about them. And it just comes back to those relationships because they know them. Proximity breeds empathy, right? I mean, like it really identifies them with people, and it sets our media apart.
There it is. Proximity breeds empathy.
Yeah, I can't take credit for that. That's a Tyler Barrett quote, but
I was going to make a your poll quote. We'll have to get Tyler Barrett. That was amazing. All right, we're gonna wrap this up and just say, Kansas, go. That good story. I love raw Kansas. Go for it. Mom, beyond that, and Ned, you should be proud. You did. I mean, we're proud of you, we should say, but keep up the fight, would you, Ned? That was just great that you took it on yourself. You went up there, and you made a statement. And I'm going to urge everyone to read your entire speech. Did you write that, or did you get? Was that all you, sir?
I did. Yeah. I probably bounced it off of Jake first, and my wife, who's easily my best editor. But
Same here.
Yeah.
Same here.
I think I may have. Did I send it to you first, Emily, too? Because I know we.
I think you may have sent it to me. Yeah, it's fantastic. The Seton family is so had a real foundation in our state, and it's just wonderful to see the next generations doing this. So thank you, Ned.
And somehow you sent your son up to Harvard. He didn't come back with a Boston accent. That was pretty damn good, too. So. All right. Well, Ned Seton, editor-in-chief, GM of Manhattan Mercury, the Times, I can't even say the county one more time. The Times of
Pottawatomie County.
And of course, Seton Publications. An honor to have you here, sir. Emily Bradbury, Executive Director of Kansas Press Association. By all means, guys, keep up the fight. Let us know how things are going there. And moreover, everybody, please read that speech and use it. If you take it, share it. It's another way we can show our value to our communities. Thanks to both of you, and we really appreciate your time.
Thanks for
Thank you.
bringing attention to it. I appreciate it very much.